What is going on, everybody? And in this video I want to talk about the rating threshold of 95 versus 96 route running. Now, it was discovered this year, actually last year I believe, that 96 was the threshold where receivers would start running kind of more quicker, precise, sharper routes over the middle of the field and towards the sidelines, whether it be, in routes, out routes, deep post routes, deep crossing routes. That was kind of the threshold where those routes would get much more precise. Everything 95 and below would be kind of more, as you know, the normal in routes, out routes. The receivers like to chop their feet a lot, whereas if you do hit that 96 threshold, you won't see that foot chop. It'll be much more of a, 1 foot in the ground, cut over the middle of the field, don't lose a lot of momentum. And some people kind of have their different ideologies. Right here, gun bunch. I'm going to go ahead and show you guys Antonio Brown on the left side running this in route now. Antonio Brown, Pittsburgh Steelers, 98 route running, I believe. So definitely over that threshold. So you're going to see right here, see how quickly he cuts, no foot chopping, over the middle of the field. Get it to him, get down, and I'm going to show you guys the replay and kind of go in depth and look at how he runs that route. So see, left foot just in the ground, cuts over the middle of the field, no chopping of the feet, instant cut, a lot better against man coverage. Right here it was against zone, but still very good against zone, especially in this defensive meta, Madden 17, where, nickel normal is everywhere. Everybody plays a very aggressive style defense, whether it is nickel or, dollar, DB fire 2 press, big dime, slant zone 2. A lot of the best defenses this year are very aggressive, send very heavy pressure, so you want these routes, in my opinion, to get over the middle of the field as quickly as possible to give you that check down option or a playmaker option, whatever it may be. You see a lot of people in tournaments running those backside in routes as check downs and playmaking them upfield behind the hook zone. So right here I'm going to go ahead and show you guys Sammy Coates on the right side of the field and kind of contrast his in route as opposed to what you just saw from Antonio Brown. So snap of the ball here, and you see Coates does a good job getting separation, ends up dropping the ball. It was against man-to-man that time, so the in route's still going to get that separation against the man-to-man coverage, but you can clearly see just not as quick, chops his feet 2 or 3 times here, and then plants, loses a lot of momentum, so kind of has to re-accelerate, and just kind of not as quick, not as crisp against these defenses that are going to get after your quarterback really quickly. I think you want that route getting over the middle of the field and kind of progressing as quickly as possible. So in that scenario, I think the 96 route running is better, is worth it, and I think a lot of people would agree. Now, there are scenarios where some people think 96 route running is actually a detrimental, and I'll be sure to go over those a little bit later in the video. But also, you're going to see right here, I'm in gun bunch Z spot, you're going to see Antonio Brown on that left side on that post route be a lot quicker, cutting over the middle of the field as well, which I'll go over in a little bit. But right here, like a 3-man flood, you're still going to see the same thing on the out route here. Same thing as an in route, basically, going towards the outside right there. Sammy Coates still does a good job getting out into the flat, picking up 8 yards. But those out routes being run by the 96 overall receiver will get out there a little bit quicker. We're talking, milliseconds basically. But it is something, it's a slight optimization to your game plan. And at the highest of levels, you can take whatever tiny advantage you can get. So in terms of out routes, attacking the flats, I think it's kind of a wash. I think the 96 route running is better, but it's not nearly as impactful, in my opinion, as it is on the in routes, because it kind of serves a different purpose, in my opinion. So in routes, I think 96 route running is better. Out routes, I think, is a wash. Now, Z-spot route on the left, deep post, Antonio Brown here, you're going to kind of see how quickly he cuts. See how just basically he almost gets a speed boost in and out of his cuts. He stems upfield so quickly, whereas usually on these deep post routes, as you see, probably Z-spot the most popular one this year, but you also see it out of plays like PA wide receiver in, out of some like gun wide trip, stuff like that. But these cuts are usually very deliberate, kind of lumbering, kind of lose your momentum as they go through these cuts, whereas right here you see Antonio Brown almost gets a little speed boost in and out of his cuts, and he gets over the middle of the field just that much quicker. And this is really advantageous in my opinion, especially on these routes that want to get across the middle of the field. I did a video on the gun tight flex PA post shot play where you saw I was using Odell Beckham to run that route. Odell also has 96 route running, so he got that super quick route cut over the middle of the field. And in that kind of scenario where you want your receiver to get vertically and get across the field as quickly as possible, I think that's what you're looking for right here. Go ahead, swap it up. You're going to see Martavis Bryant run this route on the left side. And you see right there, he just doesn't get the same acceleration. Actually ends up making a fantastic catch in triple coverage. But right there, that was against, it looked like two-man under. And he just didn't get the separation that Antonio Brown would have gotten. You can see how much slower his cuts are, much more lumbering and deliberate, as I was talking about. Doesn't get the separation. You don't see the same cut and speed boost kind of out of his cut as someone like Antonio Brown saw, which is obviously what you would expect out of someone like Antonio Brown with that route running rating. So I think in terms of those post routes, it is better. Also at a gun bunch, you can go to verticals on the right side here, and that deep crossing route, similar to the PA post shot route, not quite as deep, but you kind of see right there against the man-to-man coverage, Antonio Brown gets that separation, can't hold on to the ball, but you kind of saw that speed boost on the cut creates the separation. Right here he gets jammed, but you can still see how quickly he's able to, even after getting jammed, cross over the middle of the field, whereas most receivers, you know, on that cut, it would kind of take them a little bit longer. And I think you want those routes to be as quickly developing as possible. You want them to go from sideline to sideline. So I think deep posts, deep crossing routes, I think 96 plus route running is what you want to go for. Now, there are routes where people think that 96 and below, or 96 and above route running rather, is a detriment. And those are corner routes, C routes, kind of normal post routes, I guess you could say, and not those deep Z-spot-ish posts, but basically corner routes that are, I mean, the same thing right here, corner route, Antonio Brown on the left side. So if I were to motion Antonio Brown over from left to right here, that kind of post route right there. So basically corners, posts, C routes, stuff like that. There is a slight difference in the cut they're going to make, these angled cuts towards the sideline. And you're going to see right here, go ahead and throw it, deliver ball to Antonio Brown in between coverage. But on the replay, I'm going to go ahead and compare and contrast his route as opposed to Ladarius Green's route, which Ladarius Green, I believe, has like mid-70s route running. But this is where people think that 96 plus route running actually works against you. So Antonio Brown's cut not quite as quick, doesn't really just plant his right foot and go, almost plants twice, like right foot, then almost crosses up his left foot, does a little head fake. Now, we're really splitting hairs here. In the grand scheme of things, this matters very, very little, but it is a very, like I said earlier, it's a very slight optimization. Right here, you're going to see Ladarius Green on the left side. See how he just plants his foot, no really head fake, doesn't really plant his right foot, it's just plant and go. Now, I know these two corner routes are slightly different in depth. If you looked very closely, Ladarius Green's corner route was a little bit more flat than Antonio Brown's, but this still kind of holds true even if they're running the same corner route. It has kind of been proven that the 96 and above route running, they don't run it as crisply, don't get as good of separation against man-to-man coverage, which obviously this year man-to-man not super popular outside of cross-manning, which already does a poor job of defending these corner routes. So you're not going to run into that too much. But at the end of the day, in my opinion, I think it's personal preference. If you run a lot of in routes, out routes, deep crossing routes, post routes, or deep post routes rather, then 96 plus route running probably going to be something you want to go for. If you run a lot of C routes, corner routes, normal post routes, then maybe 95 and below is where you're going to want to hang out. Maybe you run a lot of different routes and you want to go with the hybrid approach. You want one or two receivers over that 96 threshold, and then maybe you want a receiver and a tight end, at 95 and below. So you kind of have the best of both worlds. But at the end of the day, it really is personal preference, but it is a very small optimization that can make a difference at the highest of levels. The smallest things can determine the outcome of the game. You could throw a corner route and try and time it correctly, and because your guy doesn't cut quick enough, it gets picked off or something. So always keep these small optimizations in mind. But that's pretty much it for this video, guys. At the end of the day, personal preference in my opinion. But hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you guys learned something. Definitely comment. Let me know what you guys thought. Let me know what I can do better for next time. And until next time, guys, take it easy.